Let's try to make sense of what's going on in this trailer, and indeed, there is a lot to cover. First of all, regarding the main protagonist, one is easily identified as Fragile, the woman with dooms in the first game. She is infamously known for being able to use the beach to travel back and forth from one place to another instantaneously. The beach, I recall, is the seam between the realm of the dead and that of the living, and whose space-time is disconnected to the real world. Now, although the trailer advertises the sequel of the first game, we can notice that she appears much younger than she is in Death Stranding 1. Her body has, for instance, not yet been damaged by the rain, which leads us to conclude that the fragile that we see in the trailer is a younger version of the one there is in the first game. Now, let's pay attention to the baby she's carrying. Whereas she appears to live somewhere in isolation, she is also raising a baby, and every evidence points to the fact that this baby is a breech baby that had been taken out of its pod. As you know from the first game, a BB is defined by Deadman as an extremely valuable piece of equipment. It is not to be used otherwise and should be decommissioned through incineration will it become defective. Which leads us to understand that Fragile has broken the rules. She used to be a porter for the UCA, and now she is labeled as a runaway criminal that has decided to steal the BB she was probably provided with and hides in a hideout. This is further emphasized by the fact that she is hunted by some sort of armed military that could have been said by the UCA. She escapes with the baby using an electric motorcycle but is eventually shot down and killed. At this moment, we see that she repatriates, whereas the baby appears to remain motionless. As for who the baby is, we can only theorize that. Perhaps it is one of several BBs that have been created by the UCA. But considering the background music, which is somewhat very similar to the song Cliffhanger sung to Sam while he was a BB, but also the pendant, the dream catcher, given to Sam by Amelie when he was a boy, induces that there could be some sort of connection between this baby and Sam, and one of the possibilities is that this baby could be Sam himself. Question: how could this baby be Sam, considering that we also see him much older standing next to a never aging fragile at the end of the trailer? First, perhaps the case of Sam is much more unique than we may think. He may have as well been the first and only BB that had ever been created, all the others being clones. Yes, clones. With the technology at their disposal, the UCA could have certainly tried and succeeded to clone Sam as a baby, which would explain a few things as well. First, in Death Stranding 1, Bridget allows BB Sam to be raised as a normal child, which points to the fact that she could still do without him as a baby, implying that at this point the UCA had other undisclosed resources. Second, still in the first game, Fragile seems to be holding back something that she knows and for which she seems deeply troubled. Moreover, let me remind you that not only is it stated that bridge babies are the keys to the chiral network, but also the one person that is building the network and connecting all the places together is Sam himself, which further lays stress on the possibility that all BBs are clones and that Sam is unknowingly one of them. The scene, however, is taking place before the events of Death Stranding 1. The baby on screen could very well be Sam himself. It is possible that Bridget lied or decided to put it back in its pod before being taken or abducted by Fragile while out on mission exercising its BT detection capabilities. That, however, does not explain how Fragile, who is about the same age as Sam in Death Stranding 1, could be there as an adult, as she will have been a baby too. And that leads us once again to ask another question. How the heck is Fragile still looking young, whereas Sam has grown older, and how could she possibly be with baby Sam if they are the same age? And my explanation for that is quite simple in fact. Fragile can travel to the beach at will, and we know that the beach has its own space-time. And as far as we know, in Death Stranding 1, we are clueless about where she stays, where she lives, where she spends most of her time. So I suppose that she, in fact, spends most of her time on a beach, where her body would not be affected by the passing of time and not in the real world. And that explains why she's not aging. Question: why would young Fragile steal and raise a baby? Maybe out of empathy for the baby, compelled to have a miserable existence in a pod with no prospect for any sort of brighter future. Or maybe because she knows something. She knows who this kid is and its connection with the Death Stranding. Then how does she know? The answer is time travel. That's my hypothesis, and let me explain. First, as I said earlier, the beach has its own space-time that is not connected to the real world. Second, Fragile is a beach jumper. So it is possible that future Fragile, that in Death Stranding 1, had reached for young Fragile to tell her the truth about the UCA, the BBs, Sam Porter, and all the predicaments that the world is in for. Towards the end of the trailer, we can see older Sam and Fragile looking at a new machine rising from the ground that appears to be able to travel from and to the beach. Whereas Fragile introduces the behemoth of steel, Sam stares at it in bewilderment, probably seeing it for the first time. Now, for whoever possesses this type of technology, that is to say, the possibility to travel instantaneously while carrying people and goods from one place to another using the beach, ultimately holds tremendous power, that is to be both feared and coveted. Therefore, putting APAC, the name of the company narrator mentions at the end, in a position of domination over the world, that is to say, over the remaining cities and settlements of America, but also over the UCA. As for the final question, who is the man with the red mask? Many suggest that this man could be Higgs. He was indeed spared by Fragile and, as far as we know, was given Amelie's powers to control BTs, which made him the confident villain that Sam faced in Death Stranding 1. Amelie gave him her powers to make him the agent that would carry out the Death Stranding. Albeit, it is very possible that this man should be Higgs for the confident way this masked man is acting. It is, as for now, impossible to know for sure. We could also theorize that this man is Sam himself, or rather another version of Sam, one that had grown to command with a very different personality from the Sam we know in Death Stranding. Even though this speculation would strongly support the cloning theory, it is impossible to be confirmed with the data currently at our disposal. I am still to address the zealot-like men in red and the red coffin they seem to carry, because for that scene alone there is too much to cover and speculate, so that will be the topic of another video.